Welcome into Bucs Insider, presented by Verizon. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith for this Thanksgiving edition of our show. We hope everyone's having a great week, getting some good food, good time with family and friends, and hopefully we're going to get a W to celebrate this weekend. I know this last one was so sad, and they fought till the bitter end, which I feel like has got to be encouraging. I know Coach Bowles is very clear about no moral victories, all of that stuff, but especially when you look at the game against them last year as compared to this year, definitely felt like there were more bright spots to focus on.
Much more competitive. I mean, it was 28-0 at halftime last year, and this time I think it was 13-7. The Bucs had the ball to start the second half and had a chance to take the lead and actually move the ball to close to midfield, but had to punt, and then the 76-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk was really the turning point that allowed San Fran to open up the big lead. But as you said, the Bucs continued to fight. They scored again. They had a long drive. They got 3 more possessions inside San Fran territory, including 2 that got into the red zone, but just couldn't punch it in. You're absolutely correct, and so is Coach Bowles, that there's no moral victories, and nobody felt good about that game at all. But there were some positives in terms of, can this team match up with the best teams in the league?
Yep, I agree with that. And of course, in our weekly How Good is Lavonte David segment, I feel like we're turning into a game show where it's just
it's him and Mike Evans.
Lavonte David and Mike Evans segments. So for this one, we did have a pretty big milestone for Lavonte.
Yeah, he'd been getting close, and he passed Rondé Barber for second place on the Bucs all-time tackle list. It was kind of cool. As you can see here, he kind of tripped Brock Purdy there, and that was a sack. And that was the play that got him the 1,429th tackle. He's up to 1,434 now, which anytime you pass Rondé Barber, as I think we've said before, on any kind of career Buccaneer list, you know you're doing something well. It's incredible that a defensive back had that many tackles. But now Lavonte's second only to Derek Brooks. Probably not going to catch him. It's a long way. But one thing that he's close to Derek in is 100 tackle seasons. He's now at 90. I think that's pretty clear. He's going to get to 100. So when he does, he'll have 10 100 tackle seasons. He'll be only one of 3 players since 2000 to have 10 100 tackle seasons in that span. And he's, very close to Derek Brooks in that category, which is obviously very impressive.
Very incredible. And now, unfortunately, we also have to talk about the fact that Lavonte left the game with an injury, and it felt like everybody left the game with an injury. It was starting to get a little rough out there. I was a little worried you and I were going to get the call to go in. So we know that at this point, because of Thanksgiving, we're recording the show a little earlier than we normally do, which means no injury reports have come out yet. So what do we know at this point? What are we worried about? And what do you think is going to happen based on these potential injuries and who might have to fill in?
Yeah, so Lavonte had the groin injury. Those are tricky. Carlton Davis hip, and Jamel Dean ankle. And even Tristan Wirfs left the game for a few plays with a leg injury. I think those are all legitimate concerns for this week. I would be surprised if all 4 of those guys are able to play on Sunday. They all got MRIs on Monday. As you just noted, it's earlier than we normally film this, so we haven't heard anything from the coaches, but we will hear today the results of those MRIs, which will give us an idea of the severity of those injuries. So you can follow that sort of information on Buccaneers.com. But we don't know quite yet, but it is concerning.
And now one of the, I guess, silver linings of all of that is we did get to see a bunch of young guys get some of their first snaps, and then also just some young guys that have been stepping up already even before the injuries. So what did you see from these young guys, if there are especially some injuries that are going to linger a bit? What do we see about these? I always love, Coach Bowles calls it the puppy pound, which I love whenever a bunch of the young guys are in there.
Well, it's a crowded puppy pound right now. I find it kind of incredible. I had to double check if I was thinking this right. We played seven different rookies at some point on defense. I don't know if we ever played all 7 at the same time, but there were 7 rookies on the field.
Defense.
On just defense. I'm not even talking about like Cody Mauch and Payne Durham, but you had obviously Christian Izzian's been playing the whole time, as have been Khalid Kancey and Yaya Diaby, who we could talk about a lot too. But you have Kayvon Merriweather actually starting the game. He's an undrafted rookie because Ryan Neal is out and played more snaps than Dee Delaney. Josh Hayes was present in action because both starting corners got knocked out. So Zion McCollum came in first, but then you need another one. So Josh Hayes and Kayvon Merriweather played on defense for the first time. And Servassier Dennis had to play for a while because when Lavonte David went down. And honestly, the results when those guys were mostly on the field, which was like late third quarter and all the fourth quarter, weren't that bad. And Coach Bowles said they did a good job overall, and they flew around, as he likes to say, and he basically said they kind of don't know what they don't know. So what they did well was play very hard.
And one of those young guys, Yaya Diaby, I mean, man, starting to put up some great numbers and really making some big splash plays.
Yeah, he's got 4 sacks in the last 4 games. He's really coming on. Obviously, he plays with strength. That's one of his things. As you can see right there, he kind of overpowered the guy on that one. He had 2 sacks his first 2-sack game. And actually, kind of quietly, he's close to the league lead in sacks among rookies. As you can see here, he's tied for second. The big name on there is Jalen Carter, because he went like 8th or 9th overall in the draft. But he's right there with him, and B.J. Ojulari, I think, might have been a second-round pick. Obviously you're very pleased with what Kalijah Cansey has done, but to get a guy in the 3rd round who actually can consistently put pressure on the quarterback, which he has the last 4 weeks, and we'll see if that'll continue, but it looks good. That would be quite a good find in the 3rd round.
Yeah, for sure. And then now, of course, as we sort of teased, it's a time for our Mike Evans segment. We did our Lavonte one already.
Right.
Now it's time for our Mike Evans
I mean,
one.
it's not our fault. He just keeps doing it.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I love that we have to do this.
I absolutely love this play, by the way, because if you watch it again, they play off what Mike is so good at here at the goal line, which is the fade, right? He's done it a million times, and he's fantastic at it. They actually faked the fade, and Baker actually kind of first turned like he was going to throw the fade, and so Mike gave the step out like he was going to run the fade and then cut back in. It's beautiful play calling because it's playing off of the expectations of the defense, knowing what Mike is so good at, and I loved it.
Yeah.
What it did was it moved him from 16th place into 15th place, tied with another Hall of Famer, Don Maynard, for the most touchdown receptions in NFL history. And we've been making these notes every week because he's had a touchdown in 4 of the last 5 games, and every time he moves up another spot. And it sort of gets repetitive, but then you stop and think, wait a minute. There's only 14 guys in the entire history of the NFL who have caught more touchdown passes than Mike Evans? This Mike Evans on our team that we've been watching for the last 10 years?
We've all been spoiled. We've all been spoiled getting to watch him. Oh, yeah. Get the jacket ready, as Tristan said about Lavonte. You can say it about Mike, too. And then another guy that I think, man, is playing at a future Hall of Fame level if he keeps up, Antoine Winfield Jr. Now, he did have a record this game that I don't know is the record you always want to have. But it's good to know that if called upon, he is obviously able to make the plays. That 16 tackles for him this game.
Yeah, the most by a defensive back in a game in team history. And I see your point. And I think that would be even worse if it was a cornerback who's in one-on-one coverage and they're constantly getting passes caught in front of them and having to tackle. No, as even Antoine himself said on Monday, you don't want your safety to have 16 tackles because that means there's a lot of plays getting downfield. But you do want a reliable guy that can make those tackles and clean up those plays, and that's what Antoine is. And he's had a lot of games this year where he's had turnovers and splash plays, and in this case, he had 16 tackles. So it's just another notch in his belt, another thing he can do, and it just, to me, continues what is an incredible season for him.
And then now, even though, again, we've lost this last game, feels like we've had a few different losses recently, but the great news is absolutely not out of it, not even close to it, and still in basically a position to control your own destiny within the division, within your playoff picture. So, here's the look at the division situation right now. What do we have to do at this point looking ahead?
The Bucs have 4 of their 6 games against division opponents still to go, including 2 against a 1-9 Carolina team, and in no way am I saying those are gimmies. Not at all. But when you talk about strength of schedule, you factor in that they're 1-9. The Buccaneers have already beaten New Orleans. They lost to Atlanta, and they're 1 game out of first place. And I was talking to Jeff on Salty Dogs yesterday, and he was saying, I think we need to win 6 of our last 7. I'm not airing any dirty laundry because we already hashed this out. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as what's it going to look like next week. So the Bucs go to Indianapolis. If they can get that win, New Orleans plays Atlanta, so one of those 2 teams are going to lose. If Atlanta beats New Orleans and the Bucs win, I mean, I'm not telling you anything that's complicated here, you're tied for first with 6 weeks to go, and you've got 4 games remaining against division opponents, including 1 each against the 2 you're fighting for. It's all there for you. And I know from listening to Coach and the players in the locker room right after that game in San Francisco, they were not happy. But I know from listening to them that they are confident that they can beat anybody remaining on the schedule. Who knows? But what I'm saying is you don't go, we need to go 6-1 or we need to go 5-2. You need to win this game, see where you are, and realize that it's all there in front of you. And I know it's kind of a cliche, but you said it, control your own destiny. It's actually true. The Buccaneers just have to win the division. They don't need help.
Yeah, which is a great position to be in at this point, and probably the explanation behind the news that we have recently that just came out about one of our games being flexed is that these division games are going to be so important. So the December 3rd game against the Panthers was at 1. Now it is at 4:05. So I'm sure that, again, it's that schedule makers realize that these are going to be the games that determine some playoff stuff.
Yeah, so it's the second time the Bucs have been flexed. Got flexed for the Detroit game as well, which was the throwback game.
And flexed the way you want to be flexed as compared to getting pushed back. That's never the fun place to be in. If you were the 4 and then you get flexed back to the 1, that everyone's always like,
yeah, well, personally, I wouldn't want to be flexed into the evening because that really changes your schedule. But the important thing here is for fans who might be coming to the game or who are arranging their Sunday the following week to understand and to know that the game's at 4 and not 1.
And then, of course, it is Thanksgiving, which means there's a lot of great community stuff happening within the organization and the team. And so also I just, again, even after losses, love getting to point this stuff out of what the team is doing, taking some time on their day off. I repeat, day off during the schedule to be able to. We have the turkey time with the O-line here. And you notice we got a Baker Mayfield sighting at the Turkey Time with the O-line event. Love seeing how much he helps out and hangs out with his offensive line. We had the Bucs partnering with Habitat for Humanity. Just a lot of really great stuff in this holiday week, giving back to the community. So props to the team for that, for sure. And again, thank you all so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next week.